Hi, and welcome back. Welcome back to the Rebellious Sacred Heart podcast, and Happy New Year to all my rebellious sacred hearts out there. It's been a minute since I recorded a podcast, and I'm really happy to be back, believe it or not. I'm telling myself, I know I'm happy to be back, but I've got to tell you, I've been struggling. So, while I'm trying to release all this, and I know it's a process, I do feel like I'm coming back with a renewed sense of self and that I'm ready to start again because I've been trying to do something about it. So let's just see where this takes us. So today I want to talk about old habits and thoughts and how they affect all of us. I think this is an issue that affects every single one of us in one way or another. So what can we do about it? What can we do with that? I had to really sit back and think about all of this because ever since I did my last podcast, which I think was back in October of 24, shit. All of these old patterns and thoughts just kept resurfacing, and I got to a point where I felt like I just it needed to stop. So I made a decision one day that I would find a way, figure it out, how to release them once and for all. And I'm here today just to talk about that, tell you what I did and how it went, because we all have these things that we hold on to, whether it's subconsciously or not. And those things aren't meant for us. They're not meant for us anymore. We're not meant to turn that past and our past into what we turn to when we're moving forward. We're not meant to continue those old thought patterns. We want to grow beyond that and move into a new sense of who we are now, because we are all changing every single day. And if we're still holding on to something that's from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, like that can't be good for us, right? It just can't be. But somehow these thoughts and patterns, they get attached to us, and then when we let them in, we fuel them each and every time they creep back in. So I kind of wanted to put a stop to this roller coaster that I've been on, because especially since I started this podcast back in July of last year, if you heard my very first episode, I talked about how big of a deal it was for me to even imagine myself in front of this microphone and recording something, let alone getting to the point where I actually published it and made it public. And what I've had to realize is that the amount of people who have heard it is much less important in my growth than the actual action of doing it. And I know we all get stuck on that. And sometimes people will say something like, well, nobody's listening. You know, how many followers do you have? Well, I could count them on both of my hands. And even then, I have to tell myself it doesn't matter, because I have to break through this. This isn't just for you, it's for me. So it's for all of us. So even if just one person hears this message, that's helping somebody. And it's helping me by talking about it. So here we go. So when I did that first podcast, I really felt like I had broken through some of those self-sabotaging thoughts, and that I just, in doing that first podcast, I felt like I had conquered that mountain. I was so happy every time I did an episode. I would get this rush of pure joy, thinking that, yes, I finally overcome my fears just by doing it. And because honestly, it did. Every single episode that I've ever done has brought me pure happiness and joy. Like, I get done with it and I fucking did it, and it was good. And I get the sense of accomplishment. And then, of course, the feedback that I've received from my husband, my son, and several of my friends was amazing to me, and it boosted my confidence, and it helped my resolve each and every time I did an episode. So I would be on cloud 9 for a day or two, maybe 3, and then somehow, without fail, one of those fucking thoughts would find a crack that I'd left open, and my excitement would suddenly start to fade into an anxiety when I would start to think about what I would talk about next, or whether anybody's listening, and whether or not I'm actually helping or doing anything good here. And the thing is I love doing this podcast. I really do. It makes me feel really good on the inside when I'm done. And maybe that's meant just for me and because I'm helping myself. So no matter what, that's still a feeling worth going after, in my opinion. So it's just an amazing feeling when you feel like you're not only helping yourself, but by talking about whatever it is you're going through, like I'm doing, I'm also helping others relate to whatever it is that I was talking about. And because a lot of us go through the same things or version of the same things. So maybe I can plant a seed that might help someone or support someone in their own growth. And to me, that's what it's all about, right? It's about feeling good about what we're doing. And when we're helping others along the way, it feels even better. So, well, yeah, then what the fuck was my problem? What in the world am I so afraid of every time? And why does this keep happening? It's like this tug of war between my heart and my mind. There's this part of my mind that reverts back into auto mode, and it thrives on reminding me of my fears and my doubts, and it feeds on my old sense of unworthiness and all my past failures and all the things I started and didn't finish throughout my life. They would just come rushing back to greet me and say, hey, what's up? Remember when you started this and didn't finish that? And you know what? Fuck you. Like, I'm done with you. But once I let one of those thoughts in, the other ones would follow. And then so the fear of being judged or being afraid of people just thinking I'm crazy would start circling the fucking brain when it should be circling the drain. Am I right? Like, I am done with it. I just want to be done. So then this time between each episode starts with a few days and turns into a week, and then that turns into 2 weeks, and the next thing I know, a month has gone by, and great, now I feel like I'm stuck again. And there it is again, those thoughts that love to pull me away from the new and improved me that I so want to be. And it's in this struggle, and even in the interim of all this over the last 3 months, I'd have these days where I'd be super excited about something, or an idea would come to mind of what I could talk about on this podcast. And I would start to psych myself up and say, just do it. Just do a short one if you have to. Just like do a 15-minute episode. Just do anything. So I would tell myself this, and I would just do it. Just do it. But then my heart would start beating really fast, and then the anxiety would set in again, and there I was left with those feelings and thoughts that kept pulling me down. And then I didn't do it. And what did that cause? Another sense of failure because I couldn't pull the trigger. I always found an excuse of why I didn't do it, which ultimately ends up being a validation for all those negative thoughts, doesn't it? I let them win again. I did that. Fuck. Like, stop it. Stop it. And then what confuses me is that even though I have all of these self-sabotaging thoughts that would run through my head, I also have these super strong, deep feelings deep in my heart that give me a sense of purpose and of joy and of love for myself and for others, and just knowing that I really want to help people. It's like this knowing or sense that I know that I'm meant to be doing so much more than what I'm doing, but I just can't seem to get past it. But I still have this sense that I really am meant to share my story and to help others in some way, even though I don't know exactly what that is or what it looks like or how it comes to be. Maybe it starts with this podcast and evolves into something more. I don't know. But I know I have to release any expectations of the outcome because that's not what it's about. It just feels like a calling, and it's calling me to push through this and push through it like I've never pushed before. So that's what I'm trying to do here. So every time I have to fight between these two worlds I feel like I'm living in, like it's a war for my own soul in a sense. I just have to keep continually reminding myself that I'm strong enough and I have courage and I can push through this. I know I'm being supported in ways that are beyond my full understanding. And I just have to trust the universe and trust that what is meant for me will find me. And I do trust that. I actually do trust that 100%. I mean, I'm getting all the signs and confirmations that I need and the ones that tell me that this is where it starts. So here I am once again until I get it right. So thank you for being here. And I know that somewhere in here, there will be a transformation of some sort. And I'm very much looking forward to that, even though I have no idea of what it looks like or where it's going. I just know that I must trust. So again, today I do want to talk more about releasing the things that no longer serve us. And what do we do with that? We have all of these things in our lives, the thoughts that pull us back. And we all just have different versions of them based on our own experiences. So all of these self-sabotaging thoughts that keep us from being our best and most authentic and truest version of ourselves, like those are the ones we want to pull out. We want to pull out our authentic self, the person that we were created for and what we were meant to do in this life, here and now, based on where we are now, not where we were in the past. And I know that we've all heard about journaling and how journaling helps. And it does. Believe me, it does. I still do it. So I just think that journaling helps you get started. But for some of us, at least for me, I just don't think it's always as easy as just writing it all down, because I've done that. I've been doing that over and over for years now. I've done meditations about the things that I want to release, and I've written it all down again and again. And yet still here I am years later fighting this war between my old self and this new version of me that I see, I can feel, that's calling me from the depths of my soul. It's telling me that there's more to who I was meant to be and what I'm meant to share with the world. So over these past 3 months specifically, I've just come to realize that, you know what? It's all me. I'm the one that's keeping me back. I'm the one that's holding me back from expressing my true self. Meaning the self that I had attached my identity to. That's the self that I know is holding me back. That's the one that was constructed and formed by others. And it was formed based on my personal family situations, my childhood, and how I interacted with the world around me and how those situations interacted with the world around me. So I was being that person still today, rather than honing in and tapping into my true self, that true reflection of who I came here to be and who I'm meant to be in the eyes of the divine, the creator or God or whatever you want to call it. So I came to the conclusion that in order to get there, that for me personally, I had to just do something more to try to fully release these parts of me, the parts of me that's fearful of being seen, fearful of being heard, or standing in the forefront and leading rather than standing in the shadows, hoping not to draw too much attention to myself, because I was still afraid of failing. Why do I want to start if I'm not going to finish? All of that stuff. So it was time for me to release that old program version of me so that I could truly make room for the me that is aligned with Source. I want to be aligned with my true path and my purpose for this lifetime. And if I can help you along the way on this journey, just by showing you and being vulnerable enough to tell you that it's not easy and it fucking sucks a lot of the time, I think we can do it. I think we can do it. I'm doing it. So come with me. Let's do this. So in thinking about how I wanted to release all of these things, I figured it was, again, time to take it to the next level. So what I decided to do is I decided that I was going to do my own ceremony or ritual using the energies of the new moon that was coming up in a few days. And remember, this was back at the end of December. I was trying not to lose my momentum and put it off any longer, even though these insecurities kept showing up while I was considering this. So I realized in many different readings that I was seeing that was talking about releasing and finally putting away these old patterns and things from the past. There was a new moon coming up on the 29th of December. And I've done things in the past with the full moon or the new moon energies, like setting intentions and journaling about what I'd like to release. But there was something about this specific full moon that was calling me to really just take this to the next level and do something more. I wanted to show the universe and source and everyone. I wanted to show myself that I was serious this time. I'm so done with anything that does not serve my purpose at this point, because I just know that there's so much more that I've yet to do in this life. And frankly, I just want to get on with it. So I started writing each one of these things down once again, but not in a journal this time. I wrote it down on a separate piece of paper, one that I could cut into a thin strip of paper. So I started writing each one down on a separate line. Sometimes they took several lines, but I quickly had 10 or 12 things listed, and then I thought, you know what? I'm going to take even this a step further, and I decided that since I'm a life path 33 and I have 33 in my numerology and shit, 33s show up everywhere for me. They are in every phone number that I've ever had. They are in my credit cards, different accounts. These 33s are just everywhere for me. And again, my numerology adds up to 33. So I figured, you know what? I bet I can come up with 33 things that I could get rid of right now. And yep, I fucking did. So let's just say I didn't have to think very hard to get to those 33 things that I wanted to release, because I have a lot of shit that I needed to let go of. All of the fears, all of the doubts, all the insecurities, the lack of self-worth, all of it. I wrote it all down. And then I cut that shit up into 33 little slivers of paper. So I thought it all through and decided I was going to do a fire ritual with this new moon energy. I had set the intention of what I was going to release and what I was going to replace it with, and I was going to go outside at 10:22 p.m. on December 29th under the energy of this new moon, and I was going to set that shit on fire one last time and release it once and for all. I even took the time, as in preparing for this fire ceremony. I say ritual, but I like to call it a ceremony. We want to celebrate it. It's not something like rituals, I think, are more considered to be something you do on a regular basis. But this was a ceremony. This was something special for me. So I took the time to look things up and look at other ways these types of ceremonies have been done. And the Native Americans have been doing this sort of thing for eons, for millennia, since the beginning of time. People have performed things like this and truly put their energy into releasing these things. So I wanted to be sure that I was giving all these old energies the best chance of leaving my space once and for all. I was focused on taking this part of my healing very seriously, because I just needed it to stop with the sabotage, stop hindering my growth. And ever since my trip to Sedona last year, during April's eclipse, I've really felt this increased attachment and connection to my Native American heritage, which isn't a lot, but my father is Native American. He's about a quarter of it, so I guess I'm a quarter of that, which would be an eighth of my heritage is Native American. So that's probably what drew me to Sedona too, and of course hearing about those energies. But anyways, I looked up Native American history and heritage and found that it's customary in these types of ceremonies to face the west when releasing old patterns and any past karmic energies. I found some that even said face north, but the majority said west, and I felt that I remembered from my Sedona trip that west was the direction to face for this particular type of release. So that's what I went with. And then I reminded myself that the actual specifics mattered much less than the intention itself. Intention to me is always the driving force in what we're doing. So it is meant just to follow my intuition and do things the way that feel good to me. So, but anyways, in looking all this up, it was also suggested that I have a glass of water, which also was something that was part of my Sedona ceremonies, and to also light a candle or incense, to have that, and to burn sage to cleanse myself first. So all of these things are things that are suggested and things that I did myself in past ceremonies. So I incorporated these into what I was going to do on the 29th. So I just took it another step further. I'm thinking, what else can I use? I have so many of these different things and modalities. I have crystals and all of these things. So I re-educated myself a bit on which crystals carry the greatest energies for releasing and cleansing and for setting new intentions. So once I gathered all this information, I took that journal out, because like I said, I still use it and I probably always will. So I began writing. I started by summarizing my list of what I intended to release and followed it up with a list of new intentions that I wanted to bring into my life. I meditated on this and I asked the divine and the universe to be present during the ceremony. These are all things that I actually did on the day of. And I was asking for blessings and asking them to bless me in the name of love and mercy and grace for my highest good and for the highest good of all. So I felt it was all set and I felt really good about it and I was excited for it. So I think the day before the 29th, so probably on the 28th, I told my husband about my intentions for this new moon fire ceremony. And I told him the day before because I didn't want this to be a surprise. I didn't want to surprise him that night or that day and have to try to explain at the last minute why I was doing it or potentially ruin my mojo. So, but still, right before I told him, I had that freaking creeping feeling in that made me wonder if he'd look at me like I was crazy. But I quickly shut it down because, you know what, this is a man who has been with me now for 15 years and has supported me through every bit of it. And he has witnessed my transformation already from the person that he met when I was 39 to now. And while he might not always understand or like how I'm changing, I'm not sure that anything surprises him anymore. And it didn't. In fact, he comes to me and he asks me to pull cards for him even now, because I feel like he trusts my connection, and he has personally seen it for himself in cards that I can pull for him and cards that show up for me every day and how they apply to exactly what I'm doing. So, but again, there it was, that fear of being myself, thinking I'd be judged. But you know what? He barely batted an eye. And then he even surprised me by taking it a step further for himself. And so after I told him about what I was going to do, he actually got out his own journal, and he set his own intentions for releasing shit that he doesn't want anymore. And he was happy to tell me about it. And I was so happy to hear it. I love it when I can plant those seeds and help them grow in somebody else too, especially the person I love. So, anyways, as the night of the full moon was coming, we were sitting on the couch and probably watching TV or something, watching YouTube, because we haven't watched regular TV in more than 5 years, I think. But we were just sitting there, and all of a sudden, the lights over the couch dimmed very noticeably. And we both looked at each other and just kind of looked at each other and smiled, because this has happened to us before, and we always feel like it's a sign of some sort. So I looked at the time, and it was 9:33, and there was that 33 again. So I felt like that was my sign. I just got this feeling that my guides were telling me that, you know what, girl, it's time. And that's another thing that I've gotten better at over the last few years during this journey. And so at that time, while I had my own plan, remember, I had my own plan to start that ceremony at 10:22. I went with my intuition based on those lights dimming right at 9:33, and I followed what I felt like was God and my spirit's plan, saying that it was time. So I told my husband that I felt, there it is, there's my sign, so I better get things together. And so I did, and I headed outside. So after laying everything out, I brought my yoga pillow out so I wasn't sitting on the ground, because my ass can't handle that shit for very long like I used to. So I got my yoga pillow out, and it was facing west, and I set everything up the way I wanted it, and I had all the crystals laid out exactly the way I wanted them. And then once everything was perfect in my eyes, I headed over to that tree that guided my out-of-body experience. And for anyone who doesn't know what I'm referring to there, I have a couple of episodes that I talked about, and I detailed that experience. So you can go back and listen to those if you want. But anyways, I put my hands on this tree, and then I put my forehead on the trunk. Just kind of sat there or stood there for a few moments, and I took some deep breaths. I imagined that my feet were connecting to the earth, and that my energy was connecting through the roots of this beautiful maple tree that I had so come to love and appreciate. And it came to a point that I could really feel that energy. I felt connected to the energy of the earth through that tree. And then I called in my spirit guides and my angels, God, Source. I called in my ancestors and my archangels and all the spirit guides that are assisting me on my path. And I asked that they be present and guide this ceremony with grace and mercy for my highest good and for the highest good of all. And after I felt connected and ready, I returned to the spot that I had prepared, and I proceeded to light my sage bundle, and I just started to cleanse myself, along with all of the things that I had laid out for the ceremony. And during the cleansing part of this, I recited this little prayer. I said, "May my hands be cleansed, that they create beautiful things. May my feet be cleansed, that they might take me where I most need to go. May my heart be cleansed, that I might hear its messages clearly. May my throat be cleansed, that I might speak rightly when words are needed. May my eyes be cleansed, that I might see the signs and wonders of the world. May I and this space be washed and cleansed by the smoke of these fragrant plants, and may that same smoke carry my prayers spiraling to the heavens." That always feels so good to say. So after that, I sat down and I started. I had made this little tin full of the loose sage that I had brought back from my trip to Sedona and those ceremonies that I had there, and I lit it. And then I lit the candle and I took a drink of water, took a deep breath, and I started pulling each one of those slivers of paper out one by one. And I read each one aloud, one by one, thanking each one for its service to me in the past. But then I stated that I no longer needed its protection, and then I lit it on fire. I did this 33 times. And it took a bit longer than I expected, but I gotta tell you that once that part was finished, I instantly felt such a sense of relief. I felt a sense of freedom and joy, like this huge weight had just been lifted from my heart. I just felt so happy. The sense of peace just came over me, and I just had this big smile on my face. I can feel it now. In fact, I just feel the energy running through me just thinking and talking about this right now. So after I just kind of took all that in and felt that release and owned it, I claimed that release. I then began stating my new intentions and the things that I would like to bring into my life now that I had released the old energies and just released them from my life. I was making room for the new. And so then when I was done with that, I gotta say how I ended this ceremony was quite profound in the sense of how it came to me earlier in this day. I hadn't really, prior to this, when I was doing all my other preparing over the days before the ceremony, during that time, I hadn't really given much thought to how I was going to end the ceremony. I was really just kind of focusing on what I was going to release and then what I wanted to bring in. However, it became very clear in an unconventional sort of way how I should end this. So stick with me here a minute while I digress and tell you how this came about, and then I'll circle back. So after earlier when I was talking about after I wrote down all the things I was going to release, and then I journaled and meditated earlier that day. What I forgot to mention was that I did one more thing. I felt the need after all of that to pull out an oracle deck. So I'm just laughing here because of course I did. That's what I do. I do it all the time. It just seemed like a perfect time for me to ask my angels for any additional guidance that they might want to give me at this time with this event coming up, because I had spent so much time, really planning this out. So I was sitting there looking at all of my decks, and it took me a minute because, I have over 50 of them. In fact, I think I have almost 70 of them. I love them so much. But I felt called to one specific deck, and this deck is called the Lightworkers Oracle Deck by Elena Fairchild. And I pulled that deck out and set my intentions with what I was asking for, that additional guidance, and I started shuffling. So you'll never guess what card popped out. I mean, you probably will, but of course it's perfect. The card was called Karmic Clearing. You heard that right. Like, after everything I just did about talking about releasing things from my past, Karmic Clearing is the card that showed up. So tell me my angels and guides aren't here with me without telling me that they're here. Like, this is why I love oracle cards and tarot cards so much. I just love, love, love this connection that I've created over this time with my spirit guides through this medium. And I think we can agree that based on what I was doing, this was a perfect card for me at this specific moment, as it happens quite often, but especially now. So when it popped out, all I could do was smile and say thank you, because for me, this is just another confirmation, sign, synchronicity that proves in my eyes that this connection is real. Spirit and angels are real. And so is our ability to communicate with them for our greatest and highest good, if you want to choose it, but you have to choose it. So anyways, Karmic Clearing is the card that was shown to me, and I want to share with you the message of this card. And the summary of it reads like this. It states that you are fast outgrowing a level of consciousness to which are attached to your particular wounds, issues, and struggles. Ain't that the truth? As you outgrow that consciousness, these issues will release their grip on you. You are receiving divine notice that karmic clearing is taking place through a combination of your own efforts and spiritual grace from the heart of the divine. It is time for old wounds to be released once and for all. So, yeah. Exactly. Yes, this is exactly what I wanted and needed. So the message continues in much greater depth, the full message of that card. And of course, it was very fitting, and it was exactly what I needed at that time. But the revelation for how I would end the ceremony came as I was reading the end of this message. So at the end of each of these cards' messages, Elena includes an invocation, which is like a prayer that you can do if you so choose. And of course, I did. And after doing this invocation, I knew at that moment that this was how I needed to end my ceremony. This absolutely needed to be included in my ceremony. So the invocation piece of this karmic clearing card, it was perfect. And this is how it read. So this here is exactly how I ended my new moon fire ceremony. I said, I call upon the karmic board of ascended beings, angels, guides, and holy ones who love me unconditionally and ask for your divine blessing, healing, and assistance now. I open myself up to the divine grace, divine love, and karmic absolution. I choose to surrender my attachment to the suffering I have experienced. I have learned and have been willing to go through this experience, and yet I am now willing to learn and grow through a higher vibrational experience of love. Through divine authority and my own free will, this karmic clearing manifests now according to the highest level and highest law of love. May this blessing reach into the hearts of all beings according to divine compassion, mercy, and grace. So be it. That is so very powerful to me. And it was so powerful that I just knew. I knew that that was needed to be included. And honestly, when I was doing everything else, I was so ready to get it started that this is how it ended. And it was so perfect. So after I was done with that, I sat there in silence for a bit, just reveling in that power of release and power of asking the divine for that blessing. I was sitting in my newfound freedom, and it felt good, and it still feels good. In fact, the energy that is running through my hands now as I feel that again is just beautiful. I love it. That tells me that I meant to tell you about it too. So I thanked my guides, my angels, and the divine, and everything that helps me along the way. I thanked it. And then I proceeded to take those ashes from everything that I released, all those pieces of paper, and there was a lot. And I spread it around the bushes and the tree so that Mother Earth could do the rest. So I don't know about you, but this felt so profound to me. And when these types of signs and synchronicities come in, it never ceases to amaze me. And they always give me just pause and awe. And just talking about it just fills me with such a sense of happiness and joy, and also of peace, that somehow not only will this help me, but this will help someone else find the strength and courage that they need to take this to the next level. So if what you've been doing doesn't seem to be working, or if you're getting impatient like I was, it takes a little extra work and maybe a little extra effort and action to step out of the box that we've put ourselves in, or just kind of sat in, hoping that it would work. But in order to release ourselves from the things that we've attached ourselves, sometimes we just have to do things a bit differently and take a little bit more action. So that's what I felt like I was doing. So anyways, there was so much happening. And if you resonate with any of this, anything that I was going through, this struggle, and if you have feelings like this and you wish to take it to the next level and maybe do something similar, I just want to mention here that we do have a full moon coming up here on Monday, January 13th. So your opportunity is here. If you want to try it, you know what? It's a beautiful feeling. And I know that it'll take time to integrate all of it. And I know that these things have been attached to me for so long that they just don't magically poof away, most likely. But you know what? When they come, if they come, they're not going to be here for long, because I'm not going to let them. I know that I am being supported and protected and being helped every step of the way. So again, your chance is coming up if you want to experience this for yourself. So Monday, January 13th, there's your full moon. And the full moon, it's widely regarded as an excellent time to release old patterns and fears or anything that no longer serves your growth and well-being. And there's a lot of symbolism around the full moon and many articles about different ways to look at it. So you can choose how you want to do, if you want to do a ceremony or a ritual or whatever you want to do, think about it and integrate it and do it. But the symbolism around the full moon energy is kind of summarized like this, I guess. So they speak about the culmination and illumination of the full moon like this, saying that the full moon represents the peak of the lunar cycle, a time of heightened energy and illumination, and it shines light on aspects of our lives that need attention or need transformation. So in the process of letting go, it states that the full moon phase is an ideal time for releasing what holds you back. It's a symbolic time to shed outdated beliefs and habits and fears so you can create space for new opportunities and personal growth. And with it, it brings emotional clarity. It states that full moons often amplify emotions, making it easier to identify lingering issues or subconscious fears, and that this heightened awareness can be harnessed to consciously release what is no longer aligned with your true self. So in using rituals for release, or ceremonies as I like to call them, it states that you can do several things. You can write down your fears, habits, or patterns that you wish to let go of, and then burn the paper safely as a symbolic act of release. Or you can engage in cleansing practices like a salt bath, smudging like I did, or a meditation to clear energetic blockages. So one thing to be reminded of is that it's also very important to approach this with gratitude. So I feel like this gives you the best chance of closure. And so while doing a releasing ceremony, or while you're journaling or doing your salt bath or whatever it is that you choose, take a moment with everything that you're releasing to express your gratitude for the lessons that those old patterns have taught you. Because it fosters closure, and it will help prevent lingering emotional attachment. So by thanking it and acknowledging that it was there for your protection in the past, I truly feel like that helps release that energy from you. So as much as we want to release it, it served us somewhere in the past. So thank it and let it go. And then as far as visualization goes, it is often stated that you can also visualize the energy of the full moon if you're one that can do that, and just visualize that energy dissolving any barriers so it creates that space for your new intentions and for your future growth. So the sign in which the full moon is at the time is also relevant to its energies. And so it states that when the full moon is in the sign of Cancer, it amplifies specific energies and is particularly supportive of releasing fears related to emotional vulnerability, home, and family. So it's also supportive of letting go outdated attachments or protective mechanisms that protect or prevent deeper intimacy. Excuse me, I have to take a drink. Anyway, sorry about that, but this is the realness. So these specific energies of the full moon in Cancer is also supportive of healing old wounds tied to nurturing, caregiving, or feelings of belonging. So, it would be a really good time to release anything that you don't want lingering anymore and you just want to get rid of. So there's always more. So because this full moon is quite close to Mars retrograde that we had, or it's close to Mars retrograde. Anyways, it's also going to help in closing. It says, so this is information I found, sorry. It says that it will also help in closing out any chapters concerning unhealthy family situations that have been hounding us for many years, sometimes even from birth, and that this full moon is fortifying us with resolve, vision, and courage to set things right. It might take slow and steady change over the course of the coming year to fully break free, but any steps taken at this time will lead to a much healthier home and family life for you in the future. So again, this upcoming moon would be a good time to do a ceremony like I spoke about, or anything that feels comfortable for you, especially if there are specific things in your life that you feel like you're really ready to release and that you no longer need. And you just want to take your releasing to the next level. If you've tried things in the past and it hasn't quite taken hold yet, keep doing it or do something different. And for those of you who are in the winter months or winter season, might not be as comfortable or easy for you to go outside in these conditions. Just remember that this or any version of this ceremony that I just spoke about can also be done indoors. You just need to be mindful of the smoke that it can produce and make sure that you open any windows for ventilation. You want to be safe here. And I would suggest opening that window and maybe even having a little fan or something that can guide that smoke outside so you're not setting off your smoke alarms, because you don't want that during a releasing ceremony, or you also don't want to, inhale any smoke. So please take the time to plan ahead and be careful. Risk management was always my specialty, so be sure to manage that risk and plan it out. So you don't want to cause yourself any unneeded stress during this time when you're trying to release that shit, not bring it on. So anyway, in closing, I just want to tell you that, you know what, I'm happy to be here, and I truly love you all and appreciate every single one of you. And if you've taken the time to listen to this and let me share my experiences with you, I appreciate you so, so much, and I thank you. I hope that this will help empower you and that you will take the time to honor yourself. I hope you seek out and develop your connection with the spirit, with your soul, and just let yourself be guided by the power that lies within you, because we all have it. You got to listen to it. You got to find it and let it connect with you. So I hope you'll have the courage and the resolve to change the things that no longer serve you. And if they don't serve your highest good, let them go, because every time we let them back in, we're kind of self-betraying. And you know what? We don't want to do that. I know you don't. I know I don't. So let's release that shit and make room for that good stuff, so we can start bringing out the most authentic version of ourselves, and we can shine our light and just fucking be ourselves and help others. You know, everything that we do to help ourselves can ultimately help others as they see your transformation. You can help others transform themselves. So I look forward to my own growth and our growth individually and collectively. And as we walk together on this journey, I know that just know that I will be here to support you, and we should and will support each other. And just remember to go easy on yourself. We need to always go easy on ourselves, because you know what? We're all in this shit together, but together we just get stronger. There is nothing that we can't do. Nothing. There is nothing that you can't do. And I don't want you to ever forget that. I have to remember not to forget that. I can do anything. I have to choose it, and then I have to do it. So can you. There's something you want to do it. Choose you. Just do it. So it'll feel good. It feels so good when you are aligned and just coming into your truest sense of self. So I look forward to this coming year and to seeing what the universe has in store for us, because you know what? Whatever it is, we're going to get through it together. And just know that you're never alone. And I'll be back for another episode, hopefully in the very, very near future. Aniki Mae. And this means I love you so. Take care and be good to yourself. Bye-bye.